So the fatigue load we started. In the fatigue load concept, we have seen what is a fatigue and endurance limit, right? And that is what we dealt in the static load as well as fatigue load. These are the different types of fluctuating stress. These are the terminologies which we have learned. So you got to know what is the meaning of theoretical stress concentration factor, right? KT. Yes or no? Okay. Now, just note down, sometime in the PSC examination, they are asking KT is a function of shape, size of the discontinuity, shape and size of the discontinuity, and type of loading. So it is a function of shape and size of the discontinuity as well as type of loading. If I'll say what is a KF, note down, KF is a function of shape, size of the discontinuity, types of loading. Third, what is the third? What is the third? What is the third? Types of material. Note down. KT is a function of shape, size of the discontinuity, right? Let's say there is a plate is there and the whole is elliptical shape, like this, or maybe like this, right? So we are dealing with the types of discontinuity, types of loading, whether you apply tensile load or whether you apply bending load, whether you apply twisting, right? And KF is a function of what? Shape, size, discontinuity, types of loading, and types of material also. Now, this is what we have learned. Now, this is the fatigue stress concentration factor, that is KF. And you know that KF is less than KT, right? Theoretically, we might have reached very, very high maximum shear stress or maximum stress, but actually it is not possible to reach up to that mark, right? Because there is a factor called as notch sensitivity. And what is that? This is a notch sensitivity. And this is nothing but what? Function of material. So different material having different notch sensitivity. Steel, copper, they are having different what? Sensitivity to the particular crack formation. Depends upon that. If Q is depending upon that, then Kf is also what? A function of Q. Kf is a function of Q. That means what? Q is directly proportional to what? Material. That means Kf is also what? Directly proportional to material. Note down important formula. Kf is equal to 1 plus Q into Kt minus 1. On the different types of material you will take, Kt will be same. Until unless the condition is mentioned, the size of the discontinuity and the whatever the load we applied is same for all the material, right? Even the material is different, KT will be same, but KF will not be same. Is it clear? Okay. So that is what the concept of this. And you got to know, sir, this infinite, see, whenever I say, whenever the component is subjected to the fluctuating load, now what is the meaning of fluctuating load you come across? So number of cycle we are using the component, how many times we are using the component, right? And by conducting the experiment, the molder has, what he has done, he has just taken the specimen and he has put into the, two bearings and he has just applied the loads. And the load which he have applied in the form of what? Gradually, this load he was putting. Firstly, he kept so many load. You only say that when I put so many books on you, Whether, let's say I will say 10 books are there, can you lift it? No, it will be difficult. In a similar way, if I'll say having so many load, large amount of load, can it mean the number of revolution, the number of cycle we can use this component will be high or low? Will be low. That means when the load will decrease, when a load will be increases, that means stress will increase. If stress will increase, means what? Number of cycle that component is making will decrease. So what the Waller has done, he has taken this cycle. That is, first he has done S1. He has applied large amount of load, and the number of revolution the component is making what? Very low. But he kept on reducing until unless what? Up to this point. Now what is happening? Endurance limit is saying that it is a what? What is the meaning of endurance limit? Tell me. What is the proper definition which we learned in the last class? The maximum stress amplitude, right? Which a standard polished surface material can withstand for infinite amount of life, right? At least it should make 1 million of revolution. What is the fundamental of that? See, you are having steel component, right? Once you took steel component, what you are going to do? You are going to subject it to what? Fluctuating loading condition. And what you're going to do? You're going to do number of repeating cycle. See, whenever you take shaft, you are not going to use first time, right? What you're going to do? You're going to use it for repetitive. Again and again, you're going to use it. Again and again, you are going to use it. Yes or no? That component. That means number of cycle for which we are using the component will be what? Very, very high. So what is happening? Let's say you are using that component for, 1000 times. Let's say you are using the component for 10,000 times. Then what is the stress? It can be up to this point. But further, what is happening? Once you reach, let's say there is a called as 2 lakh cycle. 2 lakh times you use that particular component. What will happen? The resistance to the fatigue will decrease or increase. The resistance to the fatigue will decrease or increase. It will decrease. Further, I just put the same component for 1 billion revolution time. I keep on rotating, I keep on using that material for 1 lakh times. What will happen? Now the resistance will reduce further, and that resistance is what? SE, endurance limit. That means what is happening with this steel material? This is the curve for steel, as you can see, bottom of that. With that for mild steel, what is the special? So specialty about the mild steel is that, or low carbon steel is that, after 1 million of revolution, if you use it further, now you can see, infinite means doesn't mean that infinite cycle. Infinite means usually we take 10 to the power 6 cycle. That means 1 million revolutions. Or 1 million times we are going to use it for that component, that same component. Are you getting my point? Now, what is happening after 1 million revolution? Let's say you are just using for 2 million revolution. Now you tell me whether stress or resistance against the fatigue will decrease or it is just constant. You can see from the graph, even though we are using for more than 1 million revolutions, even though the stress is not reducing. At that particular point where the stress become constant, we call it a what? Endurance limit. And the strength we call endurance strength. Is it clear? Now the graph is very much clear, right? How and all we are forming that graph, correct. So for non-ferrous material, this is the strain and revolution, number of cycle graph. It is like a curve. That means there is no asymptotic, there is no constant value. No, it will keep on decreasing because if you keep on using for further revolution or number of cycle, it will further decrease. That's why so many material is made up of what? Steel, because we can use it more and more amount of time, right? That's why it is mentioned for non-ferrous metal like aluminum alloy, the asymptote slope gradually even after 10 to the power 6 cycle, right? Now, note down important point: low cycle fatigue and high cycle fatigue. See, this is the log n versus log s curve. If I simply plot Sn curve without taking log, what I'm going to get it? What I'm going to get here 10 to the power 0 cycle, right? let's say here it is 1000 cycle. Let's say here it is something, let me remove it, this one. And see, things are very simple. Subject is very easy. You need to understand thoroughly. Here it is 10 to the power 6 cycle. So what is happening? There was a reduction in the stress. There is a further reduction, something like this. Whenever I make any component use, right? When I'm making a use of the component less than or equal to 1000 cycle, we call it as what? Low cycle fatigue. Low cycle fatigue means what? Less number of time we use the component. We use the component. Can you tell me the example of this? If I'll ask you, in real situation, can I say the example is like missile and rocket? Missile and rocket, because missile and rockets are designed based on what? Low cycle fatigue. Number of time uses of missile and rocket is very high or very low? See, after this one, we are calling high cycle fatigue. High cycle fatigue. High cycle fatigue. And just tell me, for high cycle fatigue, what is the example of high cycle fatigue? What is the example? Very, very easy example, you can tell me. Bearings, shafts, gears. Now tell me, bearing shaft gear you are using for 1000 cycle. See, you don't understand, sir. What is the meaning of 1000 cycle? Can I explain you? If you ask me, sir, what is the meaning of this 1000 cycle? Now observe. Yeah. So that it will be more crystal clear for you, sir. Actually, what is the meaning of 1000 cycle? See, I will give you a very basic example. Let's say you have in your home pressure cooker or not? Pressure cooker you are having in the kitchen. I'm saying pressure cooker gasket. Have you seen pressure cooker gasket? That black color, band type, for which we are putting into the top of this pressure cooker to close it completely, so that leakage will not be taking place. That pressure cooker, I'm not saying pressure cooker, I'm saying pressure cooker gasket. Per day, let's say you are making curry. How many times? 2 times. Yes or no? Let's say you are making curry with the help of pressure cooker. How many times? 2 times. Per day, 2 times. Per month, 60 times. Yes or no? Per year? Per year? 12 months are there. 12 into 60. 720 times. Now tell me 720 times is less than 1000 times or not? That means 720 cycles it is making. Are you getting? What is the meaning of this? 720 cycles. That means that many times we are using what? Pressure cooker gasket. It is low cycle fatigue. That's why pressure cooker gasket is designed on the basis of what? Low cycle fatigue. But that is not happen with the case of what? Shaft. Per day you are going to use not 2 times, many times. And that will be multiplied per month. That is multiplied what? Per day. That will be multiplied what? Per year. That's why we are classified as what? High cycle fatigue. Are you getting my point? Is it clear now? Correct. So this is the graph which we plotted here, right? Actually, you should understand what is the meaning of cycle, right? That's the reason I'm calling you to understand the subject. Now, said you come across, you said, sir, this high cycle fatigues are there. High cycle fatigues are there from here to here. On what basis we are going to design high cycle fatigue? Whatever the high cycle fatigues are there, we are not going to use any theories of failure because that is there for the static load. There is no theories of failure for the fluctuating load or fatigue load. So for that case, we are going to design by 3 method or 3 rules. That is nothing but, note down, Gerber. We are going to use, or we are going to define, or we are going to solve the high cycle fatigue problem by using 3 concepts. First is given by Gerber, second Goodman, and third is given by Soderbergh. And in that way, just draw this graph. This is x-axis. On x-axis, I have taken mean stress, and on y-axis, I have taken variable stress. Have you gone through this graph before? You know, right? Correct. Very good. Just note down. See, so many things to say, but the time constraint is there. That means for HL examination we need to stay right, and for HPCA. Now, why we okay? So just tell me why you are using Soderbergh Goodman when we are having strength of material equation. Still, we are having SOM equation, right? That is stress is equal to load by area. That must be equal to what? Ultimate stress by factor of safety. When we are having this SOM equation, then why we are using Soderbergh, Weber, Goodman? I told you, right? We can multiply by KT and we can find sigma maximum of fatigue loading. Then still we are using it. Why? Because of combined steady and variable stresses. Whenever component is subjected to only variable, then there is no problem. But when the component is subjected to steady as well as variable, then for combination we are going to use what? This Goodman, Gerber, and Soderbergh. Now, one more important point I would like to say. See, let me ask you a question. This is the sigma. Try to observe. This is the mean stress, and this is the number of cycle we are going to use it. Just tell me static load, whenever the number of revolution is making, number of cycle it is the component is making, will be dependent or independent? The mean stress. I'm not talking about the variable stress or fatigue stress. This is the static load or static stress. When I am having static stress and when the component is subjected to n number of correct constant. When I'm going to have sigma and number of revolutions something like this. It is which type of load? Now tell me guys for this above condition, this is for this condition, what is the failure stress? What is the failure stress or maximum stress? Sigma ut. Yes or no? Ultimate tensile strength. Yes or no? When the component is subjected to fluctuating, that is completely reverse fluctuating stress, then what is the failure stress? Then what is the failure stress? Just tell me, very easy. Try to just put your mind into that completely reverse fluctuating load or fatigue load. I already discussed this. Sigma max. No, 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 no. Can I say SE? Can I say SE or sigma E? Endurance stress. What is the failure stress? Endurance limit. Endurance stress. Very good. My dear friend, this is a separate thing. That is when only sigma m is acting. This is nothing but only sigma is acting. That is only fluctuating load is acting. But when this combination is happening, in which case, let me draw it. Is it over? Have you drawn? Can I remove it? Now see, when combination of these two are acting, subjects are easy guys, you need to understand. Now see, when combination of the load is acting, let me say like this, mean stress as well as fluctuating also. Can I say what is the failure stress now? Whether it is sigma ut or sigma e, there is a big question mark, right? There's a big question mark. When the component is subjected to combined loading, this is what your combined loading. During that condition, we are going to use Gerber, Goodman, and Soderbergh. For that purpose, we are taking on x-axis sigma mean stress, and on variable stress, that is fluctuating load, we have taken on the y-stress to accommodate the combination of both, right? And the common intersection point, we are going to get what? Failure stress. And I'm going to tell you what is the failure stress. Is it over? Yes. So just note down the Gerber formula. So according to Gerber, this is the formula. Don't write anything, just write on the formula because you have already notes, right, for the gate examination. So no need to worry about that. Just note down what is the formula for Gerber. Gerber formula. Now, if you have any confusion in this formula, you can write one more formula, that is Gerber. That is same formula, just a modification of this. Don't write. Gerber formula. Is it over? Is it over, guys? Note down Goodman formula. In Goodman formula, what we are going to observe, note down Weiby. Weiby is nothing but factor of safety. Whenever I at n, I am going to call factor of safety. I will tell you shortcut. Remember like this. Weigh me. Weigh me. This is a shortcut. Weigh move. Weigh me. What is the meaning of weigh me? Weigh me. That means in place of ultimate stress, yield stress will come. And this formula is for what? Soderbergh. Is it clear? Are you getting my point? Very good. Note down. Note down for objective examination, Goodman method is used for Goodman method we use for brittle material. Why brittle material? Because there is the ultimate stress. And why Soderbergh we use for ductile material? Used for ductile material because of yield stress. But why we are not using for brittle material? Because in brittle material there is no yield stress. Because if you draw the stress versus strain graph for brittle material, it is something failing like this. Sudden failure is there, fracture is there at this point. No yielding for brittle material. Note down each and everything because each and every questions are what? Objective questions. Is it over? Very good. So this you can see, this is a combination. I will tell you what is it all, right? So this is the Soderbergh. Already over, right? This thing. You might have observing, sir, there is a one thing they are doing in every equation, that is, you know, they are multiplying with the kf. What is the meaning of kf? I told you. What is the sigma e? Sigma e is nothing but sigma e star into Ka, Kb, Kc, Kd. Right? What is the Ka? Load factor. What is Kb? Size factor. What is Kc? Not fatigue factor, surface finish factor. Of course, combination we are calling fatigue factor. Combination we are calling fatigue factor, multiplying. And what is Kd? Note down Kd is equal to 1 upon Kf. So when you write this equation, this is your endurance strength. That is when it is a perfectly crystalline material, perfectly polished material without any surface defect, then we are calling sigma E star. But here we are not using that polished material. We are having what? A component that is steel component having some surface defect and having, it is not as polished because it is not produced by manufacturing process of, very super finishing process. It is produced by what? Rolling, forging, metal forming. So according that we can write sigma V is equal to sigma E star into, let's say the total I am calling K plus V me is equal to factor. What is happening? V B is equal to factor of safety. Sigma E star, no, sigma V I'm calling sigma E star and K I'm taking what? Let's say KD. And into K, whatever the KA, KB, KC I'm calling K and remaining KD is what? 1 upon KF. 1 upon KF means what? If you multiply here plus sigma M divided by sigma Y is equal to 1 upon N. Is it clear? Is it clear what I'm saying, guys? Is it clear? What I need to repeat? What I need to repeat? So that last question. Okay, fine. See, let me remove it. Let me explain it once again. See, these are the factors which I need to multiply. In the last class, in the first class of this machine design, I told you 3 factors. What is our factors? Sigma E or what let's say SE is equal to sigma E star KA, KB, KC. Till now we have learned this, but additionally is there KD after discussion of what? KT and KF. That also we need to come across. That also we need to consider. And KD is what? 1 upon KF. Now what I'm saying, just replace sigma E with a sigma E star. So what you are going to get? 1 upon N. Weigh me. Let's say this total I'm calling K and KD I'm calling KF. That is 1 upon KF plus sigma M Y. Now it is clear. Then what I can write further? That see modifying stress or modifying endurance limit we have to use sigma V into KF divided by sigma E star into K plus V me. Whenever in the question they will mention it is a perfectly polished material, it is subjected to under completely reverse bending condition, then what I need to take K is equal to 1. But KF will be there always. The KF will be there always. Is it clear? Now why we are getting this equation? Is it clear, guys? Okay. See, don't confuse with my notation and whatever the notation here. You might be thinking, sir, it is sigma E. Don't be confused with that. Just remember that sigma E star. Actually, it is endurance limit. Right? Now, note down one more thing, last point in this chapter, cumulative damage in the fatigue. Whenever a component is subjected to different cycle for different amount of loading condition, in that we are going to use minor equation. What is the minor equation? N1 by N1, N2 by N2. Note down this equation. In certain application, the mechanical component is subjected to different stress level for different parts of work cycle. Are you getting what I'm saying? Let me explain you. The cumulative fatigue is nothing but, I told you one graph. Let's say this is the graph sigma 1 and it is working for N1 cycle. Let's say another graph, it is for their sigma 2 and for the duration N2. One component is subjected to different life cycle for different stress component. In that case, see till now you are using only one. This was there, but if it is multiplied, then this equation you need to use. Are you getting my point? What I'm saying? Most of the time, that is 80% of the mechanical component is subjected to what? Different stress level for different parts of the cycle. The life of such component is determined by what? Not by Soderberg, Goodman, and whatever the equation which is given by Waller, right? That is given by what? Binary equation. And what is N1 and N2? Just note down. See, N1 and N2 is nothing but what? Number of cycle for the stress level sigma 1, sigma 2, right? Now, what we are going to give N1 by N1, N2 by N2, plus that equal to 1. Let's say what is happening in that cycle. Alpha 1 and alpha 2 are the proportion of the total life that will be assumed at the stress level sigma 1, sigma 2. Then what is the total component? Note down this formula. So we are having two formula in the binary equation. One formula is this one. When directly they have given what? Cycle, number of cycle for this many stresses, right? The number of cycle for this many stresses. But when they give in terms of alpha 1, alpha 2, that is proportionate, in that case, you need to use what? In that case, you need to use second equation, alpha 1 by N1, alpha 2 by N2, that case. Right? N1 is the number of cycle, right? And what is the N1? Life of that component for that stress level. N2 is the life of that component for that stress level, right? There is a derivation I cannot tell you again because that is not the, we are not here going for the grade classes, right? You need to just remember theoretical way that whenever a component is subjected to fluctuating load, but it is there for the different cycles and the different stresses. In those cases, we need to use minor equation. Is it clear? Previous slide. Yeah. This is the minor equation. So that is the whole and soul talk about this. After that, we are going to study welded and riveted joint. But before that, you might be feeling bored, so that we will solve some numerical question of that. Means not numerical, numerical and theoretical combination. Now, so let's start. Let me see how much you know about this fatigue loading because whatever the best possible way it can be, I can explain. I have explained, right? Fatigue loading condition. Now, if you tell me the question number 1, what is the answer? The stress concentration in static loading is more serious. Very important question. The first question itself is very important. Not only Gujarat Public Service Commission, it is asked in many examinations because that PDF which I say here, in that there is a specific content regarding specific state examination they have mentioned, but they have not mentioned about ISRO. So it is been asked in the ISRO as well. It is asked in SSC JE also. Tell me guys, what should be the answer? Very good. Why brittle material? Why brittle material? For that, let me explain a very important thing. Anybody know? You know the reason why the stress concentration we are considering more serious in the what? Brittle material than to what? Brittle ductile material. Why it is so? So just note down what you said. Not sure. Okay, fine. Whatever the guess is there, that is guess is right. Now try to observe what I'm saying. Just note down effect of stress concentration on material. So I'm going to write ductile material and I'm going to write brittle material. Just make a tabular column. So that regarding that, whatever the question will be there, all the question can be solved very easily. Right? Now, let me take two sections. Let me call the first one static load. and the second is static load. When I consider a static loading condition, and what should be I consider KT value? Now tell me, in case of ductile material, when the load is subjected to, when the component is subjected to static loading, whether I should consider KT? No. When brittle material is subjected to static loading condition, whether should I consider KT? Yes. Yes. When the particular component is subjected to fatigue loading, so, shall I consider KT value in case of ductile material? Yes. For brittle material? Yes. Now you have solved 4 objective questions, and one of the objective questions they have given in this examination. Now whatever other 3 objective question are there, they are roaming here and there for other examination as well. Now it is clear. The theoretical stress concentration factor for a static loading condition for ductile material we have not considered. Why? Note down the reason. Note down the reason. The reason. Effect of stress concentration factor for the ductile material is neglected because of local yielding or plastic deformation. Because of local yielding or plastic deformation. Whenever the ductile material, right? Whenever the ductile material you are going to take what? Whenever the ductile material you are going to take and you are subjected to a static loading, no need to consider stress concentration, that is KT, for ductile material. But for brittle material, there is a no local yielding. There is a no local yielding. If there is no permanent deformation, if there is no local yielding, then whatever the crack formation is there, the crack will propagate further. It will be bigger and bigger in size, and material will fail automatically. If material will fail, and that case we need to consider KT also, because in that case sigma max will be what? KT times of sigma nominal. Are you getting my point? What I'm saying? Are you getting my point? What I'm saying? Now, one more common sense you will ask, sir, why the stress concentration in static loading is not considered in the ductile material? That's why in the SOM equation, whatever the strength of material, we are studying static load, gravity applied load, and whatever the equation you are writing, P by A. Anytime you heard, we have multiplied for calculating sigma max is equal to KT into sigma. Have you seen KT value or KT terms in the strength of material? No. Why? Because you know that is the reason. Because of local yielding and plastic deformation. So that is whole and soul talk about this first question. Note down second question. Tell me the answer. Answer is D. The notch sensitivity can be 0, can be 1. For the worst condition, Q will be taken as 1. Highly sensitive. Highly sensitive. But being no sensitive is also what? Harmless. That means harmful, of course. Harmless is nothing but, no word at all for the, in case of fatigue loading condition, right? If Q0, that means no sensitive. No sensitivity, right? It will not sense that whether the load is fluctuating, load is static. It will simply what? Fail without giving any indication. Is it clear? Okay. Note down the third question. Wait, guys. Now, can you able to see this board? Now, try to solve question number 3. See, why I have taken question from ESC also? Because, of course, there is a level difference between HL examination, SPCL and ESC. But why I have taken the numerical also? Because if you come across the BHL paper, BHL 2019, very vast, paper was there. That means a lot of numerical questions were introduced, and we need to solve within 120 minutes of time. That's why you need to. And if you see come across Coal India Limited or Vijay Steel Limited or Vijay Steel Plant, and there is a slight difference between BHL and this other exam. In that CIL, there were more theoretical questions, and here more numerical. So you should be preparing for what worst condition. That is for more numerical as well as theoretical. That's why I have introduced numerical also. Just try to solve. It's an easy part of the numerical which we have gone through for gate examination. Question 3. A 120 mm white uniform plate is subjected to tensile load such that the maximum value of 250 kilonewton and minimum value is 100 kilonewton. The property of the material is given as endurance limit sigma E 225. Yield stress 300 megapascal. Factor of safety 1.5. What is the thickness of the plate? Now, wherever sigma Y is given and sigma E is given, that means what? It is a combination of loading or not? It is a combination or not? Combination of static and fatigue. Whenever a combination of static and fatigue is given, and when sigma Y is given, which equation I need to use? Soderberg. What is the Soderberg equation? Wavy equal to 1 upon n. Each and everything is given to you. Just quickly find out. First find variable stress, then find mean stress, and you try to do it. What is the maximum stress? Load. What is the load? By area. What is the area? 120 into thickness. What is the minimum stress? 100 into 1000 divided by 120 into T. Sorry. Maximum load is what? 250, right? 250. Minimum is 100. No doubt. Let me remove this. What is the mean stress? We are calling mean M, sigma M, sigma max plus sigma mean minimum by 2. If you add it and divide it by 2, what you are going to get? Tell me guys quickly. 250 plus 100 by 2. 250 plus 100 by 2. 175 into 1000 divided by 120 into T. Try to tell me in terms of T only. 4375. Just check it out what I'm writing. Sigma M. In a similar way, variable stress I'm directly writing. Check it out. 625. Sorry, what is happening? 625.T. Check it out. Variable. What is the variable? Sigma max minus sigma minimum by 2. When all the things are clear to you, just note down the remaining point. Sigma mean you got, sigma variable you got. Where did you put into the formula? What is the formula? Weigh mean. Put the value. What is the variable stress? 625 divided by T into endurance limit 225. What is the mean stress? 4375 divided by T into what is the yield stress? 300 is equal to 1 upon 1.5. Do it fast and just tell me the answer. What's the answer you're getting? 4375 divided by 300. Check it out, all the calculation. 4375 by 3T, right? Here also it will be 2T. Sorry, 3T. Check it out, what you are getting. Tell me what you are getting answer. Tell me guys, are you getting option number A? Option A, around 12 mm. Tell me guys, are you getting Jason what I'm saying? Correct. Are you getting the answer 12 mm? Around 12 mm. Around means 11.45 something. That means 12 mm, right? You can consider. Correct. Note down. Fourth question and fifth question. Both are very similar question. And how we can solve these questions? For that, I need to explain a concept of how to improve the fatigue strength of the material. How to improve the fatigue strength of the material concept. Right? Note down. Put a note and note down. Put a note and note down. The following methods, the following three methods are used to increase the fatigue life of a component. To increase the fatigue life of a component. To increase fatigue life or endurance limit. Jason, you know this how to improve the fatigue life of a component? Have you gone through any time before? Method one. Have you gone through that? Not able to recall. Okay, fine. I will tell you. No doubt. First method, surface treatment. Surface treatment operations like nitriding, carburizing, nitriding, carburizing, cyaniding, case hardening, etc. Right? Note on the second method, cold working operation like shot pinning, burnishing. What is the third method? Note down auto frittage technique. Auto frittage technique. Now, have you heard this name? Whatever I mentioned, or have you heard these terms in the production subject? See, following three methods we basically use to increase the fatigue life or endurance limit of a component. Either you can do surface treatment, either we can use surface treatment like cyaniding, nitriding, carbonizing, right, hardening, or cold working operation like shot peening and blasting. What is a shot peen? What is a shot peening? See, remember that whenever we call fatigue failure, the fatigue means generally tensile in nature. Whenever a fatigue failure is happening because of tensile nature of the forces, not because of compressive nature of the force. So any method which introduced the compressive force into the component, that will reduce the what? That will reduce the chances of failure due to what? Fatigue loading condition, and it will improve the endurance strength. Any method which is implying or which is just forcing the compressive force. So what you are doing in the short pinning, the material is there. Let's say this is the material in which we need to improve the fatigue life of this material. I will take the stone and I'm going to throwing this is stone. I'm going to do bombardment in a one chamber, right? Due to that, what is happening? Whatever the cracks are there, that is going to be what? Whatever the surface cracks and whatever the irregularities and whatever the foreign particles onto the material is there, that will remove by what? Stone. And of course, after throwing the stone will do what? It will apply compressive force or not. And due to application of the compressive force, the endurance limit of the what? The endurance limit of this particular material will increase automatically. Is it clear? That is what the short peeling, or blasting or whatever the burnishing we are telling. Now, in the fourth question, the resistance to the fatigue of a material is measured by what? Which option is correct? Option D. Option D. What is the fifth question? The fatigue life of a part can be improved by what? Short peeling. Option D. It is not only asked in Tamil Nadu or Rajasthan Public Service Commission, note down, ISRO 2016. ISRO 2016. As well as it is asking, I forget one exam, right now this year, Vizag 2020. Not only this, many times in SSCJ or other PSU examination, they ask this question. You may confuse polishing, coating, electroplating, but answer is what? Short peeling. It is a cold working process. Cold working, hot working, you come across in the production metal forming. No need to worry. So just note down question number 6. What is the meaning of cold working, hot working? What is the just one line if I ask you, not more detail, just little bit of idea about that. Whenever the component is working below the recrystallization temperature, right? Whatever the heat treatment operation we are performing less than, right? Below the recrystallization temperature, we call it as what? Cold working process. Whenever a component is heated above the recrystallization temperature, and then we are applying metal forming operation, that working condition we are calling what? Hot working. What are the example of the cold working operations? What are the example? Wire drawing. Wire drawing example is what? Cold working. Rolling, forging, these are example of what? Hot working. Until unless it is mentioned, it is called as what? Hot working condition. Note down ESC 2020. See, why I have taken the numerical? Now you come across without calculator, how to practice for numerical. That is also one of the major chunk portion in clearing the cutoff. Are you getting my point? A steel component having a SUT 1000 megapascal and SYD is what? 900 megapascal is subjected to completely reverse axial load. What is the meaning of this? It is a completely reverse axial load. If it is a completely reverse, what about sigma mean? What about sigma mean? 0. If the value of KE, KB, KA, KT 1.5, Q is given, and factor of safety is given as 2, the diameter of the rock. Very much clear. Very much clear, right? Remember, guys, whenever the completely reverse, let me put a note. See, these are the numerical by which I can tell you more concept rather than just telling you in a theoretical manner, right? It will be very interesting to tell you with the help of what? Question. Now, whenever a completely reversed, bending, here it is given axial load, right? So let me take completely reverse bending can be there, completely reverse axial can also be there. In both the cases, what? Sigma max equal to what? Sigma minimum. So by the formula of sigma mean automatically zero. You use Goodman, you use Soderbergh, you use any equation. What is the equation? Weigh me. Let me use Soderbergh because it's still ductile material, so I can use Soderbergh, right? 1 upon n sigma e. But this is zero, so this whole term will be zero. Now sigma v divided by sigma e is equal to what? 1 upon n. Sigma e, what I mentioned, sigma e star into Ka, Kb, Kc into Kd. Yes or no? Then what is the sigma e star? Sigma e star is given as, what is sigma e star? Anywhere it is mentioned sigma e star? See, whenever the question, note down, put a note. For steel, actually they will mention, no need to worry, sigma e is equal to 0.5 times of SUT. Note down. 0.5 times of SUT. SUT is nothing but sigma UT. S or sigma, both are same. No need to worry. No need to confuse in that. Is it clear? Sigma E or just sigma E? No. Sigma E star. So what is the sigma E star? 0.5 times of 1000, 0.85, 0.9, 0.82 into 1 upon Kf. Because Kd is what? 1 upon Kf. And how to calculate Kf? 1 plus Q into Kt minus 1. So if you are going to use this formula, just put the formula and just get sigma E. Put sigma E is here. Sigma V, what is the sigma V? Sigma max. What is sigma max? Load by area. What is the load? 50 kilonewton. What is the area? Pi by 4 d square. So you know each and everything. Just only one unknown data is there, that is d. You will be able to find d value in mm. Can you do it as a homework? Okay. So answer is B. Just check it out. If it is varying, then you can ping me on WhatsApp. Is it clear? Now, so basically, they this question they have not given the sigma e, so note down for other material also, because it can happen with the any material, right? So just note down sigma e star or sigma e star is equal to 0.4 times of SUT for cast iron, and sigma e star or sigma e star is equal to 0.3 times of. If you don't remember, then also it is fine. 0.3 times of SUT for non-ferrous. We should prepare for the worst, right? Yes or no? If you remember it or not, but you need to remember for this. You need to remember, very, very important. Even though, in fact, it can be objective question also. It is 50% of the maximum, that is ultimate tensile strength. Not 50% of S by T, 50% of SUT. Now, note down question number 7. The fatigue strength of the mild steel is lower than the yield strength. Yes or no? Correct. Now, let me take you to the next section. Note down question number 8. Question number 8, let me cut it. Okay, I have added to the library. Now, what is asking the design calculation for the member subjected to fluctuating load with the same factor of safety yields the what is the most conservative, what are the most, sorry, what is the most conservative estimate when using? That means indirectly they are asking which is the most conservative theory. What is the meaning of most conservative? What is happening? Just wait. Just wait, guys. Just wait. Now, if you just go through this, can you see the PDF? Yeah. So by looking at this diagram, y-axis and x-axis, this is the failure points. These are the failure points. Failure points. That means what is the meaning of this? If you are getting this many stresses, sigma mean and sigma variable, that material will be failed. That material will be failed. Now this is the Soderberg line and this is the Goodman line. Among all, just tell me which are from the which line is the farther for it is the large gap between the line and the what failure point, which is farthest from the failure point. Soderberg. So can I say it's the most safest theory? And this is also in English we call most conservative theory. Can I tell you practical meaning of this? See, you have the bike. The bike is meant for only 3%, let's say, or 2%. But still, you come across a number of people in India. What they are saying, they are keeping the what 3 or 4 guys. Yes or no? On the one bike. Whether bike is failing? No. Why? Why? Because they have considered what factor of safety. While designing the bike material, we have considered what factor of safety. So that what is the meaning of factor of safety? Even though more than 2% are sitting on a bike, the bike will not fail. In a very same manner, if you design any material, if you design the diameter of the shaft, the Soderberg will give the diameter of shaft in such a large value, even though the high stresses are generated, it won't fail at all while functionality. Are you getting the point? That's why Soderberg is called as what? Most conservative theory. Is it clear? Okay. Now, moving on to the next segment. Yeah. So for question number 8, what is the answer? Soderberg. Question number 9. No, no, no. Yesterday I told you one concept. Means day before yesterday, if the size of the standard specimen for the fatigue testing machine is increased, when size will increase, cracks will increase. When cracks will increase, means what? For question number 9, I'm explaining. When size will increase, the crack will increase. When crack will increase, what will happen? Ka, whatever the size factor, it will reduce. When size factor will reduce, endurance limit will be what? Reduce. That means the endurance limit of the material will go what? Decreases. Option C is correct. Now, let me just introduce a concept of this welded joint joint. Note down welded and riveted joint. Chapter 2, we are discussing welded and riveted joint. Are you understanding this? I think we cover the syllabus, in fact, parallel to the gate, right? For fatigue loading. I hope that it is clear now. Now, note down some welded joint. What is the meaning of welding joint? What is the meaning of riveting joint? Right. So before starting the discussion of welding and riveting, you should have a proper understanding of the what welding and riveting joint. So welding, first of all, note on the definition. Very, very important. Because wherever you go to any interview for private or government, right, for any company, it may be related to software, which are working on different profile like ANSYS or CAD/CAM, or if you go for other than this profile, design profile, let's say production, definitely one common question is welding. What is the meaning of welded joints? So note down, welding joint can be defined as joining of metallic parts by heating to the suitable temperature with or without application of pressure. We can apply. See, I think you have come across types of welding joint or not in production. So you might have heard this uh, with application of pressure, without application of pressure. That is different classification, right? Autogeneous, heterogeneous, homogeneous, right? So yeah, I did not to tell again because again that will take half an hour discussion. Note down advantage and disadvantage of welded joint over the riveted joint. First advantage is that welded structures are usually lighter than a riveted structure. This is due to the reason that in welding, gusset and other connecting components are not used. What is the reason they are light in construction, that is the structure? Because we have not used gusset and other connecting components. That we need to use in what? Riveted joint. Note on second point, welded joint having more efficiency than a riveted joint. If in fact I can say, note down, in fact I can say highest joint efficiency. See, whatever I'm writing, all are objective question. Objective question 1, objective question 2. They can give what is the highest joint efficiency, boulder joint, riveted joint, screw joint, or what? Any other joint they will mention, right? Or maybe knuckle joint, right? Or maybe quarter joint. So any joint can be mentioned in the 4 option, and simply they will ask what is the meaning of what is the highest joint efficiency. In that case, you need to do a question called as welded joint. Is it over? Have you noted on point number 1 and point number 2? Okay, just wait. Now, what is the disadvantage? Since there is an uneven heating or cooling during the fabrication of the welded joint, therefore the member gets distorted or additional stresses may introduce. What is that stresses we call? Residual stresses. Residual stresses. Are you getting my point? We also call it as thermal stress. What is the meaning of thermal stress? Alpha into delta T into E. Yes or no? In strength of material. Whenever a component is fixed at both the end and we start heating this material, right? Then whatever the stress will be developed, that is alpha T into E. Due to what? Welding joint. And it also required highly skilled labor and supervision, right? Since no provision is kept for expansion and contraction in the frame, therefore there is a possibility of cracks also. There is a possibility of cracks also. This is a big reason. This is a very big reason we don't use this welded joint in the aerospace industry. So put a note and note down. Aircraft body made up of riveted joint only, because see, due to residual stresses, the fatigue stress will also come into the picture. But because of riveting, note down, riveting introduces a compressive force in the body, and you know that whenever compressive force introduced, the fatigue loading can be, whatever the chances against the fatigue can be reduced, because fatigue cracks can be stopped. Fatigue cracks can be stopped by riveted joint. Is it clear? If somebody will ask you the aircraft body, which type of joint we use, the joint should be only and only riveted joint. Nowadays also. Now, is it over? Now, note down types of welded joint. Types of welded joint. What are the types of welded joint? Guys, we are having lap joint, butt joint, right? What is that lap joint? This is the lap joint. One place is placed over the other, like this. So this is called single transverse. See, in the lap joint also we have two types: transverse and parallel fillet weld. Transverse fillet weld and parallel fillet weld. Right? Of course, you can see this. What is the meaning of transverse? Explain here. This is a welded joint. This is a welding has been done. This welding is the load is acting perpendicular to the weld or parallel to the weld. Perpendicular. Whenever the perpendicular to the weld is the load is acting perpendicular to the weld, which type of stresses will be introduced? Tensile stresses. Same here also. But what happened with the parallel fillet? This is the fillet joint. Let's say this is the welded joint. And whatever the load is acting that is parallel to this parallel fillet, which type of stresses will be introduced? Shear stresses. Yes or no? Tau, and here it is sigma. Yes or no, guys? Correct. Is it over? See, very, very simple things. In a very simple, a lighter manner, we are going to move. Right? Now, can I move to the next slide? Butt joint. Where one plate is another plate. They just joined by edge to edge, like this. In the production, we generally more concerned about butt joint, not lap joint. But in our machine design, we mainly concerned with the what? Lap joint. So we have single butt joint, single V butt joint, single U joint, double V joint, double U joint. Are you getting my point? When thickness will be keep on increasing. See, this is thickness is very, very small, T1 and T2. T2 is more than T1. That's why we need to use what? Double V butt joint, double U joint to make a component strengthen and strengthen. because of single butt joint. If you produce only single, what will happen? The chances of leakage will be there, and of course, along with that, the joint efficiency will be less, and whatever the joint strength will be there, that will be less. That's why when the thickness of the plate will increase, we need to produce what? Double V joint or double U joint. Are you getting my point? Of course, if you see the side view, something like this. It is moving something like this. This is the plate and this is the welded. Is it clear now? Correct. Now, moving on to the next. The butt joint can also be something like this. Why I'm saying? Because in some of the object examination, they ask this question. This is which type of joint? I think this is asked in ISRO only, 2017, or I'm forgetting, just 2015 something. They ask this question. Because most of the time, what you generally, generalize, you just make a generalized statement that when the plate is connected like this, and whatever the joint is produced, we call it as butt joint. But that is not always true. Butt joint can also be like this. T joint is also butt joint. H joint is also butt joint. Corner joint is also butt joint. See the microscopic understanding of each and every topic in the subject. That's why you cannot take any topic lightly, especially for theoretical examination or PSC examination. Other than GATE, GATE is not. Of course, I can say that GATE is a very simple exam as compared to other PSC exam because you should only focus on numerical. But in this type, very tedious job is that is to rectify which portion are coming under which concept and what I need to remember actually. Remembering power is more important than conceptual power here. No doubt. The very first topic, strength of transverse fillet welded joint. What is the strength of transverse? There is a transverse fillet because you can see the load is applied parallel to what? Whatever the welded has been produced. Sorry, perpendicular to the welded has been produced. Whenever it is there on the single plate, that is on one side, we call single. When it is there on the both the side like this, we call it as what? Double transverse fillet weld. Double transverse fillet weld. Note down throat thickness is T, leg of the weld L, and length of the weld is L. In always, remember that always in the question, what they will mention? They will mention S, leg of the weld. But formula you have to use what? What is the formula we have to use? Just note down this diagram, I will tell you. Is it over? Is it over? Throat thickness. See, I will explain. In the next slide, it is there. Is it over? Just see, this is the throat thickness. This is the welding joint. And whatever the perpendicular line I have drawn, this is nothing but throat thickness. And this is the leg of the weld. Whatever the weld we have produced, whatever the perpendicular or thickness of the weld, we call it as what? Leg of the weld. In the question, they will mention formula. This for single, this is the formula. For double, this is the formula. If it was 0.70 S into S into L into sigma T. Now we'll ask why S is coming? Because in the formula, what is from? Sigma T into L. But T is equal to what? As by important relation, the relationship between T is equal to S by root 2. No doubt. Actually, this is a formula, but in the question, they will not mention thickness of the weld, throat thickness. They will always mention what? They will always mention leg of the weld. So you need to convert this formula to this formula. Once it is a double fillet weld, we need to multiply with the 2. Are you getting? And what is the throat thickness? It is the minimum area. Note down. Note down. Put a note and note down. What is the throat thickness? Throat thickness is nothing but it is the minimum area of the weld. We call it as throat area. And you know that whenever the minimum area is there only maximum stress will be produced. How? You come across in the fatigue loading. Here, when hole is there, when load is there, here area is more, but here area got reduced. Only this much area is there. Suddenly stress suited up. Yes or no? Correct. Note down second point, that is the strength of parallel fillet weld. Parallel fillet weld. Note down only first diagram. Let me tell you, this is for double parallel. Now, if we come across this welding, the load is acting parallel to that. That's why we are calling parallel fillet weld. And parallel fillet welded joint, we consider what? What is the failure stress? Tau. That's why tau is introduced. Same formula. Instead of sigma t, tau will be there. This is for single. For double, this is the formula. What is the figure B? The figure B is nothing but when a component is subjected to transverse and parallel both. Can I write this formula something like this? Plus 0.707 into S into L into sigma t. Check it out, this formula. For this is for B figure. The strength will be combination of this parallel as well as transverse. Because this is nothing but what? Transverse, and this is nothing but parallel. Are you getting? Is it clear? That is what depicted here for figure B. Is it over? Note on some special cases regarding fillet welded joint. What are some special cases? The weld is produced and we have subjected to whatever the welded joint to the torque. This torque will be transmitted to what? Welded joint. Here also. After transmitting the torque, what is happening? We know that the shear stress for the material. This is the shear stress. What is that? Torsion equation. Note down formula, just I will tell you. Whatever the welded joints are there, this is the welded joint, right? We have this is the hollow section. We call it as thin section. Thin hollow section. And for thin hollow section, what is the area? Pi dt. What is the moments of inertia? Pi dq t by 8. What is the polar moment of inertia? Pi dq t by 4. You know this formula or not? In a strength of material. In bending loading chapter. Correct. Very good. That is what the same formula we have used. And of course, in the question, they will not mention throat thickness. What I mentioned, you need to convert to S by root 2. Simply put the value, get the answer. Of course, this formula no need to, remember, you can derive in the examination. It will hardly take 1 minute, right? Just use torsion equation. And from there, torsion equation will get the formula. Note down, circular fillet weld subjected to bending moment. But it is subjected to bending moment instead of what? Instead of twisting. Bending equation we have to use. That's it. That's why I told you while starting the machine design subject, what is the importance of connectivity between SOM and machine design? Same formula we need to use, that's it. What is section modulus? I by Y maximum. Is it clear? Note down final formula. because no need to note on in between step. And try to just tell me today itself, ping me on WhatsApp, right? I will tell you, I will send the notes actually, notes of FM and this machine design. Now this is the some additional topic. I'm just okay, sir. That would be yeah. Just I will say the notes which are there in the PDF format so that you can go through that. This axillary loaded unsymmetrical section. What is happening when I take the section? This is the welded joint. But whatever the load we apply, that is applied to the center of gravity. But that is not always true. We come across a situation where we are not applying the load exactly at the center. We applied away from the center. Away from the center, let's say PE. Are you getting my point? During that case, how to design? This is the design procedure. We need to take the moment. Okay, let me explain there itself. Now, this is the load we have applied. You are aware of this topic, whatever topic I'm explaining now. Okay, fine, no problem then. Can I skip it? Because it's a very easy. You need to take the moment balance, that's it. Nothing much in that. See what you need to do. See, this is the P. Whatever it will come here, it will be P1. Yeah. Here it will be P2. Now P is equal to what? P1 plus P2. P is equal to what? P1 plus P2. Now quickly, I will take the moment about this common axis. If I take the moment, what I'm going to get? P1 into A is equal to what? P2 into P. Do you have the two equation and two unknown? You will be able to get P1 as well as P2. After knowing P1 and P2, you can apply the formula 0.707 into T into L1 into tau. You can apply P2 is equal to 0.707 into T into L2 into tau. Now you ask, sir, why we are calculating P1 and P2 separately? But before section, you have not considered something like that. Can you tell me the reason for that? Let's say the parallel fluid, double parallel fluid, I am applying the load P. Why you have not considered, why you have considered taken P and P only directly? Because exactly it is acting what? Middle of that is center of gravity. If it is exactly acting at the middle of the what? Yes, exactly acting what? Middle of the number, that is center of gravity. In that case, what can you take the moment of from the center of gravity? Yeah, so P1 is equal to Q, P by 2 by 2. And of course, what is the formula used? 0.707 into T into L into tau into Q. Yes or no? There we have taken P by 2 directly. P by 2. But here I am taking what? P1, P2 because that will be different. And that we need to calculate from unsymmetrical. That is, that is what the topic called as unsymmetrical welded section from this axis moment. Two equation 2 unknown, you will be able to solve it. Is it over? So these are some formula, you can go through that. How to find length A, LA and LB for that. Note down riveted joint. A riveted joint. What is the meaning of riveted joint? I'm audible, right? A riveted joint. See, there are two types of joint basically. In whole universe, we have the two types of joint. Permanent joint, fastening means joint only. Both are same. And temporary joint. Don't write anything, just write down. Permanent joint means what? See, these are the joint which cannot be disassembled without destroying the connecting component. What are the examples? Solder, bridging, welded and riveted joint. Very, very important in objective question, directly asked in ISRO and many other examination. What is the temporary joint? Screw joint, key, quarter, pin, spline joint. Screw, also note down bolted joint. All are objective question. All are the things which are just compiling slides. All are objective questions. Temporary joints, the joint can be disassembled without destroying the connecting component. You can open the nut and bolt, right? Without simply breaking the particular plate to be joined. But if you want to remove the welded joint and riveted joint, you need to break the plate. Is it over? Now coming to the next slide. Just note down types of riveted joint. First is lap joint. First is lap joint. Try to observe in the figure. This is single riveted lap joint, double riveted lap joint, double riveted lap joint, zigzag riveting. What is the meaning of single double? On the combination of the both the plates, how many rows of rivets are there? Single row of rivet. Single row of rivet. What is the double riveting? Two rows of rivets on the both the combination of the plate. And try to remember P, PB and PD. Because in Vijay Steel 2020, they just played with these three words P, PD and PB because they have given some question and what we call back pitch, diametral pitch or simply pitch or margin. So you just make this diagram carefully and whatever definition of PB, PD and P I will give in the next slide. Now you are having some concept regarding actually you have the clarity over the concept or and the difference in the studying method for various examination. Like for GATE, you should not focus on that particular uh, theoretical portion. Of course, diagram you need to remember, but not in deep. Yes or no? Yeah. But for other examination, now you can say that till what level they are touching the question. Because they simply whatever the question they are asking in the GATE, directly they will copy and paste. All the whatever aspirants are there, they will what get the full marks, and the cutoff will be very high. To avoid that confusion and high cutoff, what they will mention, they will just put 10 or 11 good quality question, theoretical question, so that the difference can be created. Can I remove it? Is it over? Okay, moving on to the next slide. Butt joint. Why we are calling double riveted? It should be quadruple riveted because what? 4 number of rivets are there. You have any confusion? Sir, it is a 4 rows of rivet. Why you are not calling quadruple? It is calling double riveted. See, in butt joint, you need to count on a single plate how many rows of rivets are there. Yeah, there is a 2 plates. But in the lap joint, it is a combination of 2 plates. One plate is overlap, one plate only. Are you getting my point? But here we have to count single. That is butt joint. Calculating each and every rows of the rivets, the pitch will be same, but here pitch will be different. That is called as zigzag riveting. And it is a double strap, right? One is here also. Is it over, guys? Important terms used in the riveted joint. Note down important terms which use pitch, back pitch, diametral pitch, and margin. Pitch. Whenever two rows of rivets are there, the distance between this, the distance from center of one rivet to the center of next rivet measured parallel to the seam. Measure parallel to the seam. Parallel to the seam. We call it as what? Pitch. What is the back pitch? It is a perpendicular distance made up between the center line of the successive rows of rivets. Perpendicular, back pitch. What is the diagonal pitch or diametral pitch? It is the distance between the center of one rivet in adjacent row of zigzag rivets. Basically, diagonal pitch we use in what? Zigzag riveting. Like this. Do we have diagonal pitch in the chain riveting? This is the chain riveting. In chain riveting, can I say the diagonal pitch is equal to back pitch? Of course, we don't have anything, but if at all I want to define it, I can define like this, right? And this is your chain riveting. Sorry, zigzag riveting. Now, so it's over quite, and of course, note down margin. What is the margin? It is the distance between the center of the rivet hole to the nearest edge of the plate. Can I call this as margin? This as margin. The distance between the center of the hole, center of the rivet hole to the nearest edge of the plate. Is it over? Very good. Now note down the next point. Now note down failures of the riveted joint. How many types of joint failure we need to study? Very, very important, very, very important. From here on, whatever the things are there, that is very important for the examination. We have three types: tearing, see, tearing, searing, and crushing. Crushing is also called as bearing stress. Because of tearing, searing, crushing, the joint can be failed in three manners. Tearing we define for plate, and this to be defined for what? Rivet. Are you getting my point? Tearing cannot be take place at the rivet side. The tearing can be taking place what? At the plate. You can see this figure. When I subjected to the load, what is happening? There is a tearing is happening. Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? To avoid the tearing, what we do, we keep margin as 1.5D. 1.5 times of D. Note down. Is it over? Can we move to the next slide? Very good. Now note down tearing strength of the plate. What is the tearing strength of the plate? Note down. PT is equal to P minus D into T into sigma T. Are you remembering? Are you able to recall this formula? H minus D, right, into T into sigma T. Basically, I can say diameter of hole, DH. Sometime, diameter of hole is equal to D, but of course, diameter of hole must be greater than D, right? Are you getting my point? Now, just know the formula only. This is the tearing strength. What is the next? Searing strength. When a component, let's say the lap joint, it is subjected to the load. How many times of failure is happening? See here. Searing is happening. What is the searing load? Note down, guys. N into K into pi by 4 D square into top. Where N is nothing but what? Note down. N is nothing but what? Note down. Very, 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 very important. What is N? Number of rivets per pitch length. Number of rivets per pitch length. What is K? Number of sharing. Number of times sharing. Here, how many times of sharing is happening? One time. What is the K? 1. What is happening? Sharing of rivet in a single cover butt joint. How many times? One time. K is equal to 1. Are you getting my point? Now let me take you to the next slide. Just note down. This is the formula. Where n is nothing but the single share or double share. When I take the butt joint and let me take cover plate, 2 cover plate. And when there is a rivet, now tell me how many times K will be there here. That if this is a rivet, how many times it is failing? Exactly here and here. K will be 2. So that is what we have formula. Single share, double share. Are you getting my point? Note down crushing of the plate. Now you see there is a hole. Inside that hole, there is a crushing is happening. And what is the crushing formula? This is the formula. Let me write. N into D into T into sigma C. Of course, N is number of rivets per pitch length, T, D, and sigma C. My dear friend, can anybody know? Do you know what is the meaning of how to calculate N? Let me ask you a question. This is the rivets. It is single row or double row? Double row, let's say lap joint. Now tell me N value here. This is the pitch. What is the number of rivets per pitch length here? See. No. Just try to count it. Make the center line half, half, 1. Half, half, 1. Here it is 1, here it is 1. 1 plus 1, 2. Are you getting my point? If it is a zigzag riveting like this, then I need to call, let's say, per pitch length. Then what is the per pitch length? Half, half, full. 1 plus full, 2. N is equal to 2. Are you getting? Are you getting my point? Correct. Note down. Efficiency of the riveted joint. Efficiency of the riveted joint is nothing but whatever the least force of PT, PS, and PC, tearing, strength, shearing, and crushing. Out of that, whatever the least I need to take in the numerator, and whatever the strength of the plate. The strength of the plate is nothing but what? The strength of the plate sigma T into pitch into T. That means without hole, without riveting. Are you getting my point? What I'm saying? Yes or no? Correct. Is it over? If it is done, we can start solving the, whatever the objective question on welded joint, riveted joint, and this. So let me take you to the section of numerical question and theoretical question. So yeah. So of course there is a combination of bolted joint. Bolted joint we have not covered till now. I will cover in the next class. So before that, just note down. Yeah. Tell me this question number 21. During crushing or bearing of the riveted joint. See why I have taken a question from ESC also. One more reason, so that you will be having some broader range of thinking of the particular question. Just now we cover the crushing and the bearing failure of the what? Riveted joint. Now you got some idea also by seeing the diagram how the failure is happening at the riveter. Can you just tell me what is the answer? During the crushing or failure of the riveted joint, the holes in the plates become oval shaped. There is a tearing. Tearing, how the tearing will come due to pressing? B is absolutely 0% chance. Nobody will tick. The plate will crack in the radial direction? No. The rivet head will sear by, there is no searing. Only one option is there, A. Of course, this is the trial and error method. Now coming to the conceptual clarity of that. I told you whenever it is subjected to loading and there is a hole, what is happening near the rivet hole? This is a rivet hole. Due to riveting, what is happening? It is shifted and it will make a shape called what? Over. This is oval shape. Due to riveting and due to crushing, what is happening? After application of the load, the plate with the hole, whatever the whole side will be there is a geometrical changes happening. Of course, one more is then. Can you connect the dot? Can you connect the dot? Whatever the riveting material and the plate are what? Ductile material. Are what? Ductile material. Yes or no? And in the ductile material, what is happening? I told you what is happening. Local yielding. Local yielding. Due to that, this is called local yielding. This is called local yielding. My dear friend, now you come across why we have not considered KT effect in the ductile material. Why we have not considered KT effect in ductile material under static loading condition? Under static loading condition, because this is also what? Static. I have not applied plate is something like plus minus P. This is static loading. This is plus P. That's it. Plus means what? Static loading. And now you come across that local yielding. What is the meaning of local yielding? When crack was something like circular, whatever sigma max is very, very high. Now when the crack is something like this, now tell me, sigma max here it will be high or sigma max 2 will be high? Among all, sigma max and sigma minimum, that is sigma max 1 and sigma max 2, which one will be higher? Of course, sigma max 1 will be higher. Are you getting? Crack will be exactly perpendicular, means it is obstructing the particular flow direction. Flow means what? Whatever the, this slip deformation or slip formation is happening in the, dislocation happening in the material, solid material. But here the crack is what? Parallel to the load because of local yielding. Before it was circle, now it has become elliptical. That's why due to local yielding or plastic deformation, we have not considered KT effect. Are you getting the point? Is it clear? Is it clear? Very good. Note down question number 22. Transverse fillet weld are designed for what? Fast. The transverse fillet welded joints are designed for what? Tensile strength. Because this is a welded joint which is subject to the load, and once I apply, this is the transverse fillet weld. This is load is perpendicular to that. Whatever the stresses will be introduced, that is tensile strength. In ESC, many times it is asked. Note down question number 23. The diameter of the rivet in terms of plate thickness is what? 6 root T. Diameter is equal to 6 root T when thickness of the plate is greater than 8 mm. What is thickness of the plate? Let's say this is a butt joint, right? And of course, there is a riveting is there. When thickness of the plate is greater than 8 mm, we need to use Unwin's formula. What we call Unwin's formula. But you will ask, sir, what will happen, sir, when the thickness is less than 8 mm? When thickness is 8 mm, then you need to equate PS equal to PC. N into pi by 4 T square into tau is equal to sigma C into N into T into T. In this equation, everything will be given to you. You can calculate thickness. Are you getting, guys? So whatever the concept possible, I am giving at the instant while discussing the question. Is it clear, Justin? Okay. Now moving on to the last question. See, this is the last question for today's session, right? In the next segment, I'm going to cover bolted joint. Then I'm going to cover bearing, that is sliding contact bearing. Please note down this question side by side. sliding contact bearing, then rolling contact bearing, then I'm going to cover brakes and clutches, then I'm going to cover spring, and then I'm going to cover gear, especially spur gear. So quickly, I will take, around 1 hour class for this. The remaining 1 hour I will take for this. So you need to revise it thoroughly before coming to the class. Note of this question is still subjected to the following stresses. See, this question is basically what? SOM. That is theories of failure. So I have taken for your quick revision, and of course it is a recent paper. Right, so just start discussion. Sigma T is given as 120 megapascal. This is sigma 1. What is sigma 2? 60 megapascal. What is sigma 3? Minus 30 megapascal. If the proportionality limit, that is nothing but E, is given as 250 megapascal, then what is the factor of safety? According to maximum series stress theory. You know what is the maximum series stress theory? We also call it as what? Tresca theory. Of course, very good. Tresca theory. What is the Tresca theory? Tau maximum is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2. That is nothing but what? SYS by N. That is what? SYT by 2 into N. Right? See, there is a proportionality limit of the given. So I think this is sigma 1. Sigma 1, not E. So sigma 1 minus sigma 3. Now, what is sigma 1? 120. What is sigma 3? Plus 30 by 2. What is sigma YT? 250 by 2 into N. 2 will cancel out. So what is the N? 250 by 150. Can you tell me answer? 1.67. That means around 1.7. Option B is correct. Now you'll ask, sir, so what you did here? Why you have taken sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2? You know what is the full statement of Tresca's theory? Now see. Tau is nothing but larger of, no doubt, sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2. Sigma 2 minus sigma 3 by 2. Sigma 3 minus sigma 1 by 2. So tau is the larger of this. So what is the larger value? Sigma 1 minus sigma 2, if you calculate, you are going to get 30. Sigma 2 minus sigma 3, you are going to get 45. But if you are going to calculate by this, 120 minus plus 30 by 2, 75. Which is larger? This is the larger. Yes or no? Are you getting? This is according to maximum shear stress theory. We also call it as Tresca's theory. I hope that today's session is very helpful for you. Right? So, is it over? So we'll see the next class, the remaining section of this, machine design. Okay, we'll see in the next class. Now, yeah. Okay, you can leave for the day.